All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going on a mission. We're going to become data detectives, and we're going to learn how to make sense of all the numbers flying around us every single day. Let's start with the scene that probably feels a little too real for some of us. You've got this mountain of data. Maybe it's from a survey, maybe it's sales figures, whatever. And it just feels like chaos, right? It's kind of like showing up to a crime scene where the clues are just scattered everywhere and you have absolutely no idea where to even begin. So that leads us to the big question, the one that every investigation starts with. We've got the raw info, all the records, the observations. Now what? How do we take all of that messy stuff and turn it into a story that actually makes sense? Well, this is exactly where our detective work kicks off. Okay, so first things first, we have to find the focal point of the whole scene. In the world of data, we call this finding the measures of central location. And let me tell you, this is our first huge clue. It helps us zero in on what's typical or, well, central to our whole set of numbers. Think about it this way. If you were tracking a suspect, you'd want to know where they usually hang out, right? That central spot gives you a starting point. Well, these measures do the exact same thing for our numbers. They give us a single typical value to anchor our entire investigation. Now, to find that center, every good detective needs the right set of tools. And in our data detective toolkit, we have three main instruments we're going to use: the mean, the median, and the mode. And each one has its own special job for cracking a different kind of clue. First up, we've got the mean. You probably already know this one as the average. It's simple. You just add up all the values and then divide by how many values you have. It's awesome for getting a quick overview. But a word of warning, the mean can be a little sensitive. A single really high or really low number, an outlier, can totally throw it off and lead our investigation down the wrong path. Next in our kit is the median. So if you line up all your data points from the smallest to the largest, the median is the one sitting smack dab in the middle. Now, its superpower is that it doesn't care about those extreme outliers. For example, imagine you're looking at salaries. 5 people make 50 grand and 1 person makes 5 million. The mean salary would be ridiculously high and misleading, but the median? It would still be 50 grand, giving you a way more accurate picture of what a typical person in that room earns. And our third tool is the mode. This one's super straightforward but really powerful. It's just the value that pops up the most often. So if we were looking at t-shirt sales, the mode would tell us the most popular size people are buying. It's absolutely perfect for figuring out what's the most common thing in your data. So let's do a quick recap of our tools. As you can see here, the mean gives you the classic average, which is great when your data is pretty symmetrical. The median, on the other hand, finds that true middle point, which is a lifesaver when you've got skewed data with outliers. And finally, the mode. It just pinpoints the most frequent thing, making it ideal for categories like sizes or colors. See? Knowing which tool to grab is half the battle. Okay, so we found the center. We know the suspect's main hangout. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Knowing the average tells us a really important part of the story, for sure, but it leaves out another piece of the puzzle that is absolutely crucial. And this is where the plot really thickens. We also need to understand the spread of the data. The pros call this measures of dispersion. This doesn't just tell us where the center is. It tells us how all the other clues are scattered around it. This gives us context. Think about it. Were all the clues found neatly packed in one room, or were they spread out all over the city? Are our data points all clustered tightly together around the average, or are they kind of all over the map? Knowing this paints a much, much richer picture of what's really going on. So to measure this spread, we're going to need to pull out a couple of our more advanced tools, the range and the standard deviation. These are what will help us map out the entire scene. First, we've got the range. This is the simplest tool for measuring spread. It's literally just the difference between the highest value and the lowest value. It quickly tells you the boundaries of your data set, the widest area that your clues are spread across. It's a fantastic first glance at the overall spread. All right, now for our most powerful tool, the standard deviation. This tells us, on average, how far each data point is from the mean. A low standard deviation, like you see on the left, means all the data is huddled together. It's really consistent. A high standard deviation, on the right, means the data is widely scattered and all over the place. It is hands down the best way to understand the consistency, or, the inconsistency of your data. And that other term, variance, It's just the standard deviation squared, just another common way to measure the same thing. And just like that, the case is really starting to come together. When you combine our measures of the center with our measures of the spread, you can now tell a complete, compelling story from just a bunch of numbers. You've officially assembled your own powerful data detective toolkit. So what can you actually do with this kit? Well, you can now look at pretty much any dataset and figure out the best way to describe it. You can confidently calculate its center and its spread. But honestly, the most important thing is that you can go beyond just looking at numbers and truly interpret the real story that's been hiding in the data all along. We've cracked this case wide open, but the world is just full of data that's waiting for someone like you to make sense of it. You now have the fundamental tools of a data detective. So the only question left is, what story are you going to uncover next?